Hey guys, how's it going? I'm in a slightly different location right now. So my parents were actually moving to a new house right before the whole COVID thing happened, and they had to put that move on hold for a little bit. So I'm down here helping them get all their stuff set up. So I'm in a different place right now. But I wanted to make this video because I just recently made a MIDI foot pedal, and you'll see it down there to do some live looping stuff. And I'm not the greatest live looper, but it has been fun learning a bit about how to do it. And I really like, setting up some tracks that I can play over with my guitar. My wife sings over them sometimes. So I figure I might as well show you how I do that and give you a little rundown of my rig. So I don't have everything here because I'm at my parents' place again, but let me just show you what we got going here. So here's basically all of the gear that I use. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't have everything here. So the only thing that's really missing is so that's one of my guitars. I also have a bass that I use occasionally for laying down bass lines on tracks. And then this is actually a bass amp, but I brought it down here because it's really light and the smallest one I had. I usually use a PA, and it's just like a pretty simple powered PA. I think it has a 12-inch speaker, but I'm not really sure. It's my dog, by the way. So yeah, I use Ableton Live. This is a 16-inch MacBook, and I use Ableton Live on this thing. I recently upgraded, but my old MacBook was I think a 2013 MacBook Pro. Is mid-level. Wasn't really able to handle Ableton Live, but this one has had no problems since then. I think it's pretty maxed out. I don't remember what the specs are, but maybe I can post them out in the description. So I run Ableton Live off of that. And then I have all of these things, these USB connectors here, which I plug into the outlets. And these connect to my pedals, the MIDI controller, this audio interface, and my keyboard. So audio interface is used for recording guitar and microphone or audio from my wife singing when she sings. So maybe I'll go through that last. But basically everything that I do is controlled by this keyboard. This is a Novation Launch Key 61. It's pretty nice. I'm not a great keyboardist. I'm just kind of learning right now, but it's really nice because I can adjust all my levels right here. There's also buttons that I can use for triggering loops or recording loops. This starts and stops a scene in Ableton, which I'll show you once we get on the computer. And then I have all my keys for, switching tracks, switching scenes, starting, stopping, octaves, everything's here. It's really nice. So that goes into the computer. Like I said, if I have any MIDI instruments, I would just use this to play the MIDI instruments. And then I use this as a drum pad as well. So I can switch between a function that allows me to record scenes in Ableton, and then I can switch this to switch over the drum pads and record that. So hooked up to this keyboard, there is this little foot pedal, which I had before I built this MIDI controller. But I use this mainly just to overdub. You can set up a function in Ableton to overdub audio or MIDI tracks. And then I also use it as my record button. And again, I'll show you that when we get into Ableton. So I use that in combination with this new thing that I built, which is that MIDI controller. So it just plugs in via USB. It uses one of the printer cable USBs. And then there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 13 buttons on here. If I were to build this again, I would probably remove one of the rows because it's kind of hard to get your foot in between these to play the buttons. But the top is set up as a record button. So I kind of split it between these two. So these have different functions than these three buttons. The bottom is stop, so I can record and stop tracks individually. And these are scene play buttons. So I can line up a bunch of tracks in one scene and then stop it or play it if I want to. And then this switches between a second scene. So I can play one scene, switch to a second scene, record more tracks, stop it, switch back to the first one. This is my pedal board. So I just got this. This is the HX Stomp, and I'm really liking this. I might actually just get rid of all of these other pedals because this thing does it all. I really like the way this thing sounds. There's really good sounds you can get out of it. The only thing I don't like is it doesn't have very many buttons on here. So you can actually add another MIDI pedal to expand the number of buttons that this thing can have. So I'll probably do that. And then another cool thing you can do is hook up a expression pedal. So this is my wah pedal, and I don't really need this if I have my wah controlled by an expression pedal here. So I'll probably get rid of this. And then these are like some analog pedals that I had earlier. This is a Plimsoll, which I like. It's kind of more of a heavy gain pedal. Tube Screamer, you always got to have one of those. This one is awesome. This is the High Road Fuzz, which is made by Mythos Pedals. It's kind of like a fuzz face style fuzz. It's really good. But I mean, I can get a similar sound out of this thing. So I'm thinking might as well just get rid of this if I'm not using it. And then this I actually really like. This is the MXR Carbon Copy. I use this all the time. I have a loop set up in this thing. So I can create like an amp sound or something, or a high gain distortion, feed it out of this into this pedal through a block on this thing, and then back into my pedal. And all of that stuff gets sent through, can either be sent through USB or just the output cable here into my recording interface. So that's how I kind of I pump the guitar into Ableton. I usually just use the USB as a kind of like a way to be able to switch the settings on my computer. So there's a UI that you can use to change the presets for this through the computer. So usually I just use that on the computer, and then I take this audio output cable and go straight into the audio interface. So the audio interface is a Focusrite Scarlett, and I got a really good deal on this from Reverb. It was used. I think this is a 6i6, but I got it for like $100, which is really, really good. So I put my guitar into input 1, and then my mic goes into input 2. The mic, I have a preamp for that, and this is just like a TC Helicon pedal that I found. It's pretty cool. It does reverb. You can do like special effects for harmonies and delays if you want to. Usually I just use reverb and sometimes some delay. And this is my wife's microphone. It's a Sennheiser E935. We got this recently. It's pretty good. I'm not a singer, so I don't know much about that. So yeah, she'll plug into this thing. We'll just both pump our sound into this thing, which connects to the computer in Ableton. Again, bass amp, but usually use the PA. And then this is my guitar, one of my guitars, which is I think it's a Player Series, if I remember correctly, and made in Mexico. It's all right. I changed out some of the pickups, but I'm not sure I really like them. I forgot what pickups I put in them, but it's all right. I really like the feel of it though. It's nice and comfortable. So yeah, let's get into Ableton, and I'll show you how I go about recording a new looper track. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention about this is so when I'm doing the live looping, I need to be able to listen to the click track so that I can trigger the loops properly and record the loops properly. So I always plug in I have some like cheap in-ear monitors, basically headphones that I plug into the audio output here, and then I channel the click track into this audio output, but not the speaker, so you can't hear it if you're listening to it live. And that works pretty well for me. These actually block out sound pretty well, so yeah, they work awesome for me. All right, so I'm in Ableton right now, and apologies for the bad sound. I don't have my microphone. So I'm just recording off my phone here. But this is basically how I do all the looping stuff. So if you're not familiar with Ableton, there are this concept of tracks and scenes. So each one of these vertical columns is a track, and each one of the horizontal rows is a scene. So I can record tracks into each of these spaces, or audio clips, and turn them on or off, or switch like holistically between one of these scenes or another one of these scenes. And it's really powerful because you can basically like combine all these different audio clips into one song and easily trigger things whenever you want. So each of these little boxes is actually activated by the MIDI foot switch that I have. And then the buttons on the right hand play all of the clips for that scene if you want. And then the last one just basically stops everything. So I'm just gonna set up a quick track here so you can see exactly what I mean. All right, so let's see if we can record a song. So I'm gonna switch over to my guitar track first, and let's start this. So my click track's playing through my speaker, and let's just make sure I'm recording this here. Okay, so I have my guitar track laid down, and now say I want to add some drums over the top of that. I can switch over to the first one. And if I don't get that perfectly, I can just quantize it so it's exactly on the beat. And maybe I'll go over to this bass track and lay out a bass part. Alright, and maybe I'll just quantize that as well. Okay, so, I have this track laid out, and that's great. But say I want to switch over to another scene and create another part in the song. And maybe that part needs to have drums at first. So I'm just going to copy the drum part and swap it over to this next scene here. And if you check this out, so at any point I can play the second scene by pressing this button. So as you can hear, it switches over to the drum track now. I can switch back if I want to. And I can even stop it. So I'm going to go to that second track. Let me just put you here so you can see what I'm doing. Alright, so I'm going to create another guitar part on top of this. Messed up there, so it's easy enough. I can trim it down if I want to. And then maybe I'll put a bass part on top. Alright, and now I have that set up. I can just press this button to switch right back. And my favorite part is when you get to put the distortion on and solo over the top of it. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed and maybe learned a little something about my setup that you can apply to your own live looping setup. It's not perfect, but it has worked for me and I'm learning. So it's great to use some new technologies and try to figure out how to create something new during the whole quarantine situation. And apologies about my guitar playing. Is a little sloppy during this episode. My guitar is actually tuned to open D for another song that I've been working on, and strings were a little floppy, so not great, but what can you do? If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to keep up to date with all of our latest videos. If you have any suggestions about future videos that we can make, just leave a comment down below. We'll try to get to it. My wife and I have also been working on quite a few new covers that we're planning on posting on the channel, so keep an eye out for those. But until then, I'll see you next time.